Yali nanotoka Pitlawak, Wanonsapisca Roma Martinez, Nanina Otla Machtichkat. Hello, my name is Pitlawak and my last name is Roma Martinez. I'm a Nahuatl language teacher. And today we have a special guest, Mexican excellence. Profe Citlalli will be talking about their work and their coaching services for this decolonizing journey. So we're just gonna wait for a little bit for them to come on. One moment. Hola,
Yali, ¿cómo estamos?
bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien, Tlazocamati.
Oh,
All is well, all is well.
nice. Well, uh, thank you for being here, hermana. And so I would like to introduce mi hermana, mi amiga, my rock, mi psicóloga. um, she is a historian, a poet, a teacher, a Waytlant Temachtiani. And we're here for her to talk about their coaching services, right? Coaching services through this decolonizing journey. I know that from my experience, it's been a 5 year journey, and so I've hit a lot of paredes where I don't know what to do, or there's times when I don't know, I didn't know how to like reach out and find out about my roots, or I didn't know like what books to read. And so I think it's important for someone to perhaps give you some guidelines or some resources that you can, that can help you through it. So, Citlali, if you'd like to talk about it.
Yes, first of all, Tlazocamati, everyone that's joining us in this space, I'm really grateful for this moment to share with everyone. And like you're saying, I've been on this journey for 24 years. It's a long time, going on 25. And I've always coached people, since I can remember. People reach out to me and I help them out as much as I can. And always remembering, I think the most important thing is that decolonial work and decolonial release and cleanse is very different for everybody. I was guilty when I started decolonizing, and I will admit to it, right? I was very dogmatic. I thought there was only one way to decolonize. There's only one way, to get it right. And through the years, life has humbled me. A lot of experiences have humbled me. And the older I've gotten, I've realized just how delicate it is, and just how interconnected being decolonized or on this journey of decolonization is to our mental health, to our financial health. It's so connected to everything, and we cannot, use one standard, one way for one thing where everyone is different. And it also has to do, I think, with a lot of the traumas that we have, a lot of the experiences that we've gone through. And then, right, so say you've already struggled in life and you've had a bunch of other challenges, which a lot of us have, and all of a sudden you come across this knowledge, right? You come across this reality, and it could be very overwhelming, right? It can be very overwhelming if you are already overwhelmed with other things that are happening, but you don't want to let go of this opportunity, and you do want to decolonize, and you do want to start your journey. So Part of the coaching that I do, it's very multifaceted. Like I tell people, I can help people with researching their history, researching, whatever interest that they are. And that's another thing. Like I tell people, when you're on this journey of learning your history, of being passionate about indigenous culture, whichever it is, everyone is interested in different things, right? There's language revitalization, which we does a beautiful job in the collective at speaknawa.com. There's people that focus on foods and crops. There's people that focus on fashion, right? And indigenizing the fashion industry. There are people like myself, I focus on, well, activism for one, but really trying to decenter whiteness in academia and making knowledge accessible to everybody, which is my personal purpose and my personal attraction to decolonization. So I think that's another thing, that people should be very gentle with themselves, because as you're decolonizing, we're going to try to decolonize everything all at once. You know what I mean? And it's really overwhelming. And I've met so many people that become so overwhelmed that they give up. They just give up. This is too much for me. They go back into the matrix, Um, and it's sad, because it's like there is no guide, there is no book, there is no handbook. Like, it's really just our community, and we're building community. And it's like, it could be very isolating as it is to decolonize. You're already questioning Christianity, Catholicism, some of us, right? Not really participating in a lot of the holidays. So it could be very isolating. And if we don't build community and check out what resources we all have to offer each other, it could be very, very daunting. And so part of like the work that I'm doing, besides the coaching, I also do, as education. I have my monthly class, which we has been a great contributor to that. And I think the most important thing is just aligning yourself with what you are passionate about. And I help people fine tune that. I have people help them with college courses, their majors, career choices. What are you going to manifest your greatest assets in? Is it going to be a teacher? Is it going to be a counselor? Is it going to be a nonprofit? Like, there's so many things. And I always tell people, like, we have to really be creative, right? As we're decolonizing, like, not everything that we're taught to do is that systemic. Like, there's so many leeway for you. There's so much autonomy that you can create for your own self, for your purpose, for your family.
And again, yeah, definitely everything. What resonated with me is, yeah, everyone's journey is different. It's completely different, and yeah. So if you have any questions, y'all, you're more than welcome to ask them. There's a question bubble at the bottom. There's a question, and then you can hit that question button, and then you can enter your question, and then we can go ahead and answer your question, Kena. Um, entonces, I've been saying Kena, so Kena means yes. um, so yeah, like for me, like you said, like I wanted to decolonize everything, everything about my life. I wanted to decolonize my family members. I wanted to decolonize everything, like once you realize this, and for me, my journey is like, first it has to start in your mind. First is understanding that we're still colonized people. Colonization never left. you
Mhm.
know um the continued genocide, there's proof, and it's like it's an very saddening time to see the proof of the genocide. With our little, Koneme, little children, all the graves have been found. You know what I mean? So it's also tough information. It's also very horrible information that you will encounter, and
Mhm.
so community is important. Community is important for you to talk about these things. Sometimes, and another thing too. For me, for most of my students as well, we're the only ones in our family that are doing this. We are
Mhm.
the only ones that are taking back our indigenous roots. We are the only ones that are reading these books that have opened our minds. We are on, yeah, so we're doing this within our families only. And so, it's good to align yourself, another word that
Mhm.
resonates, align yourself with folks that are in the same path. No importa if they're like not, your family, if not, even now and not, especially with the pandemic, like connecting with folks across like anywhere, across these lands, Abiyala in North America. Um, but yeah, that was my take on it. And I think we have questions. Let's see. Southeast Latuani is asking, what's a gentle method to encourage your spouse to begin the decolonizing journey with you?
Wow, beautiful question.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think, everyone's different, and I think when you are with your spouse, I think one of the most important things is that that person is coming in again with their experiences, with their traumas, with their worldview already, right? And so as you're building together a relationship, and you are decolonizing and they maybe not are probably new to it, I think the most loving thing that we can do is come to an understanding that we're going to share, right? Like, I'm going to share this with you, let me see your take on it. Um, like, for example, I'm married, and I just had a beautiful baby boy. And my husband, like, he is on the decolonial journey, but he's very different from me. Very, very different. And so when we met, I just told him, like, look, this is who I am, right? I'm not a Christian or Catholic, submissive Catholic. I'm not, I'm not going to baptize my children if I have children. I'm not going to get married through the Catholic Church, if we do get married. So I think part of it is saying, you know what, this is who I am. This is what I have to offer you, right? And that other person, I think we have to be very open and transparent about what our needs and goals are as a person coming into a relationship. Because if you don't share that about yourself and you keep hoping that they'll get it and that they'll open their eyes and they'll open their eyes, you keep putting yourself in a very, very dark place, feel of resentment, feel of, like, angry, and it might not turn out good, like, in my experiences have been, be transparent and open about what you want, because next thing you know, he's proposing, or she's proposing, or they're proposing. Next thing you know, you're pregnant. Next thing you're like, whoa, like, and if you don't have these conversations way before that happens, it's going to be a very intense moment that you can save yourself when coming together, date night, probably watch a documentary. There's tons of beautiful decolonial documentaries out there. You know what I'm saying? So you can start to make your evenings a little bit more, conscientious, or a little bit more decolonized in ways that are still entertaining, that you can still have fun together, but it's a different context, like, instead of movie night, whatever, you're watching a documentary, and you can still enjoy each other's company, but start having these conversations. And I think that's a really important conversation, because in my experience, I was with somebody that was like 100% like me, right? In my younger years, 100% like me. And I thought that's what I needed. I thought I needed someone that thought 100% like me. And I learned the hard way that's not always important. You need someone that respects you, that's going to nurture your growth and you're going to nurture theirs, and that's going to respect what you're bringing to the table, what and that could be conversation, that could be ideas. And, or like I said, with our marriage ceremony, it wasn't Catholic or Christian at all. Like, I try to bring in native elements to the ceremony. It was a beautiful ceremony. And my husband, he walked in with a Tupac song. you know. And it's like, and it was beautiful because he was being, I love him for who he is, and he's gonna be who he is in these all these moments, right? And it was like he was being true to himself, and I was being true to myself, and we still had a beautiful ceremony, and we still have, and it was like those are some of the things that you have to talk about, like, and that's to answer that is like you have to be open and transparent about what you want, open and transparent about how things make you feel, because you want to have those conversations. They may be uncomfortable, but I think starting in a place where you're saying, you know what, I love you. I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I would really want to talk about this, right? This religion or baptizing our kids and it's like we really have to get into those deep conversations because if we don't, I think we're setting ourselves up for resentment and a very, very ingenuine experience with each other. And I think in a relationship, I think most of us are trying to have a genuine and loving and healthy relationship. So that's what I would offer.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, and that's basically like a relationship as well, right? I know that word has been resonating with me too. Transparency. Trans
Yes.
express your, express how you feel. No importa, like it just, um, on my end, like for me, like it's been like not movie nights, but it's been like reading nights, reading a book.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes. Beautiful.
Yeah, so that's one way that we've been able to connect like that. So I think book nights it would
I
be
love it. I love it. I
uh
love it.
ahí va. Because you can also like pause and talk about what you just read because there's times when you read something, at least for me, I'm like, whoa, this is deep. Like this is deep. I need
Yeah.
to like let it sink in, and it's good, especially with someone that, you can be with, that you can be yourself with, is
Hmm.
like, you can have an honest conversation about it. Like, this is how I feel about it. And yeah, I mean, that's one way that, it can be, a gentle way of doing it. There's another
Absolutely.
question. Uh-huh, yeah. Um, there's another question. How did y'all go about finding community when decolonizing?
Beautiful. I think an example, like with Kui, when they approached me, about starting a podcast, right? 2 years ago, Kui?
It's on Spotify, Decolonizing Sunny
Yeah.
2019 stuff. Yeah, it was.
And and they wanted to do a podcast with me. And I've been following their work for a long time. And I was like, I would love to, but if we remembers, I was like, can we meet up? Can we? I mean, this is before the pandemic, right? But it was important for me to meet with Gui and have that human element because to me, as building community, and I can get into the pandemic part of it, but I think it's so important to have that human connection, that human element, because there's something different that happens with what happens online with what happens in person. The energy that you pick up on, like body language is like everything speaks to you. And when you meet someone in person, I think it really helps you read that person a lot better. And it's a way also to again to check the vibes to make sure that we're coming together from a good place. And again, it's something that social media and online interactions can't do, right? It's that human element. And I think part of building community too, I think y'all touched on it, saying like when we build community, we're not always going to agree 100% with everything all the time. Like, we're not looking for people who are 100% like you, right? Again, that idea that if we think we are right, on this topic or this issue, and if we can't let go of that when we meet other people and are trying to impose our view of the world on other people, that's not going to work. I think when you build community, especially online right now because of the pandemic, I think a lot of people were able to build community. A lot of people were able to reach out to each other, perhaps in ways that you've never thought about, you know. And I think when you're building community, it's about bottom line, right? What's the bottom line of our community? We're for the betterment of our people. We're for the liberation of our people. We are for respecting all of our people, LGBTQ two spirit plus. Like, I think there's certain things that shouldn't be compromised, and if you can have that understanding, like at the end of the day, this is what matters to us, this is what matters to you. I think that sense of community is a lot stronger, and it helps you kind of be there for each other more, because again, it is very isolating when you're decolonizing on this journey. The last thing you want to do is keep, putting people off, and not being able to be there with people, because you're only hurting yourself, and at the end of the day, we all need that human element, we all need that assurance, and like we said, we're not always going to get it through family, and that's another idea that we have to kind of question, like, what is family, right? And is it only through blood? Is a lot of indigenous societies, we had a lot of what they call god parenting, a lot of god families, and it's like, even in our societies, we always looked into how to extend our families beyond the family blood unit, and that serves a lot of purposes. It's like, you don't have to deal with certain family, and I want to make empower people. Just because we're born into a family, sometimes that family is not the healthiest for you. Sometimes there's toxic people there that are not the healthiest for you. And you have the right to seek support and love elsewhere and not feel guilty for doing that. And then you bring in the element of decolonization, then you bring in the element, it's a lot, right? But I think at the end of the day, decolonizing is also decolonizing how we love ourselves, and not kind of casting away our health for the betterment of the family, or the betterment of, oh, que van a decir, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's really centralizing your health because you belong to a collective, because we're resilient people, and you don't want to harm that anymore. Like, we've already gone through so many centuries of this. There's already so much intergenerational trauma, that I think those of us that are trying our best to be on this journey is, what can I do to be the healthiest version of me at this moment, when I engage with family, with friends, who makes me feel the most loved, and that's where you want to be, right? And so in building community, you have to really look at that, right? And then other things too, sometimes you're going to meet people that you don't vibe with, and that's okay. Like, just because we're on the same decolonial path doesn't mean we're all going to be best friends either. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
Mhm.
I'm telling you this from wisdom. I'm telling you this from experience. Like, it's okay. Like, we can be on a decolonial path together, and that person's like on that freeway, and you're over here on this freeway, and we're both headed to the same place. But you don't
Yo
have to be in
estoy
the
en los
same
cinco
lane. You don't have,
diez, yo on the five.
yeah. Like, you don't have to be in the same car, even. Like, you know,
Just, same road. I don't
I
know.
know, I think, Wacho, hey, what's up? Like, and that and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
again, like, we don't have to do this because it's expected, or, oh, he's decolonized, I'm decolonized. Okay, like, no, like, don't force it either, like, just really cherish your peace, cherish, again, the bottom line. And if you want to build community, and if that's a reciprocal, support, then go for it. Especially with social media, with a pandemic, it's like, a lot of us were online, right? And it was kind of cool, because sometimes we would meet people online that we never had time to meet in person. So that's another thing too, right? It's like,
Mhm.
this whole pandemic really challenged what communication looks like for us, and how we could reach out to each other. So that's one way. I don't know, Queeve, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, building community, as in, if you vibe with that person, like, you know, um, yeah, if you all have any questions, you're more than welcome to hit the bubble at the bottom with the question mark. We're talking about our decolonizing journeys, and our hermana Citlali here, um, providing coaching services. for your journey, right? So yeah, for me, building community. I mean, and like you said earlier, trying to gather my thoughts. Like you said earlier, like this decolonizing journey, it's like it's different people, for lack of a better word, like specializing in something, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
like for me, like I've been not just studying Nahuatl, not just like focusing on that, but like promoting indigenous languages,
Mm-hmm.
promoting the revival of our languages, promoting the, to maintain our languages alive, right? So that's, in academia it's called language revitalization or language
Mm-hmm.
revival. You know, um, I just came off a meeting from una universidad, from the university, that they want to create a space, a conference for folks to come and look at the different indigenous peoples of what's now known as Mexico. You know what I mean? So I think that's where find your passion, find something that you
Mm-hmm.
really love to do. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of it's at your own pace. You
Yeah.
don't have to rush to do everything. And like earlier you said like you wanted to colonize everything. Like for me, like I had to been doing activism. You know what I mean? Like from like 2009 to 2017, and then like in between, like when I went to Mexico City, and then just everything changed after that for me. And so I wanted to learn now like right away. I wanted to be a danzante, and I wanted to do activism, and I wanted to know about plants, and I wanted to know about mushrooms, and I wanted to know everything. And it was like, wow, I'm living through this, colonial capitalistic world and having a
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5, and it's like, you know what? I can't do it. There's
Mm-hmm.
it's community, it's a web, you know? And so, yeah, just finding what you really love, and, en el camino ahí vas a encontrar personas, you're gonna find people that are aligned with you.
Yep.
And yeah, like through this journey, I've met so many people that have helped me. I've helped a lot of people. Um, and with that podcast that we did last year, well, 2 years ago, um, yeah, I love that you came to La Plaza, and then like you met up with me, we chatted, you met my compañeros del colectivo, you know. I love that. I love that like just not necessarily like being all like, um, buddy buddy all of a sudden, but it's like knowing each other, knowing our faces,
Mm-hmm.
and getting to know each other like that way. That's one way that I recommend.
Yep. And if
Yeah.
I can share, I love how you talked about trying to be the all decolonized person, right? Like overnight. I think within the last 5 years, I've really learned to cherish that wisdom, because
Mhm.
I was to the point where, because I've been doing this for so long, I was people pleasing was one of my tenets, and I had to work on that. Because so and
Mhm.
so asked me, like I felt like I had to know everything about Peru, everything about Brazil, everything about the Diné people, the Navajo. Like
Mhm.
I felt like I should know it because I've been doing this for so long, and I was like, am I expecting to know this because I think I should know this, or because I think that's what people expect of me? you
Mhm.
know and and it was really really tough, because I was like, no, I should know this, and I would stop what I was doing and Google stuff and go to the library and get books out, and it was like this unending, just frustrated, and like, no, but I have to know this, I have to know this. And also,
Mhm.
like you're saying, you know now what, it's something that I one day would like to speak fluently, through the services of Kui. But it's like I tried to, and I was like, I can't kid myself. Like, it's something I want to do little by little, but I cannot focus myself 100% on it. Other people can, and it's beautiful, but to
Mhm.
me, I'm just like, no, like my purpose, my calling is communication, is history, is doing all these projects I'm doing, and I made peace with that. I made peace
Mhm.
with that. I was like, you know what? I'm thankful for the Nahuatl language services that there are, and I do take a class here and there, and I have the book. So I was like, okay, I made peace with that. Well, before I was like, no, I have to learn this, and I'm gonna give myself 5 years to learn this, and like I had this game plan, but it's like no, like it's like you only have certain amount of time of your life. You want to cherish and you want to be able to enjoy the process. You want to be able to enjoy what you're doing. Enjoy if it's language revitalization, if it's art, if it's music, if it's research. Like you want to not, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to fall like and resent the work. You want to keep that love and you want to keep that appreciation for what you're doing. Because like I'm telling you, I felt like this whole thing about, oh, I have to know it. People think I should, so I should. And and also too, like how you're choosing to decolonize, and if someone doesn't like what you're decolonizing, and like the decolonial police, like it's real. Like I've been doing this for 24 years, and I still get that. Like, why do you wear makeup? And well, why do you listen to hip hop? And why do you enact? Like, it's like you're always, you know what I mean? Like, and I want to tell people,
Do
like,
you pay my
nunca vas a
bills?
quedar,
Do you pay my
yeah.
bills first of all?
Like nunca vas a quedar bien con todo el mundo. So,
Word.
you know what I mean? We're not here to please the world. We're here to honor our growth and our ancestors, and that's going to look different.
Hmm.
And like I tell people, like I said earlier, like I'm not for everyone. Maybe some people don't like my style, what I do, and that's cool. Like I'm okay with that. Like years ago when I was younger, I was like, oh fuck, like what should I do? Not
Yeah.
anymore. Like I'm just like, you have to be honest and true to yourself. And then those people that are attracted to that energy, that are attracted to what you're interested in, they're gonna come. You're gonna build community that way. But if you're afraid of being who you are, you're afraid to express yourself, you're afraid to really be genuine, then you're never really gonna connect genuinely with people. And you're never gonna
Hmm.
find a genuine community because you're too, you're too limited by people's perceptions. So,
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, we cannot control people's perceptions of us. Neither should we want to. You're here to live your truth, whatever that's gonna look like to you may look very different to someone else, but it's okay. Like you have a job for yourself to be authentic with yourself, and that energy resonates, and you're gonna build community with the right people.
Hmm. Yeah, it's doing things from the heart and continuing to doing things from the heart. And that resonated with me. I've been saying that word a lot, but yeah, if it resonates with you, it resonates with you, and you keep going, keep going, keep going, and you'll find people along the way. Not necessarily, you're gonna have like long lasting friendships with folks. It's just also building a network of folks
Yep.
that specialize in different things.
Yep.
For you, it's out for you. You are in academia. You are a historian. That's your specialty. You're there. Um, and so, yeah, it's just doing things from the heart. You know, um, this resonated with me when an elder said this at a Two-Spirit conference last year when we were first entering the pandemic. Doing things from the heart, being gentle with our people. Um, you don't know what that person has gone through, what they're going through,
Hmm.
maybe some health issues, maybe some family issues. It's all part of
Yep.
intergenerational as well. So being gentle with folks, and also if like having times of like educating folks, if you have the time and if you have the ability, the capacity,
Hmm.
mentally, physically, and so understanding that, that we are our own persons. You've been doing it for a while, and then you're a role model. You're my role model. I look up to you so much.
That's
Um,
cool.
and I know that folks also look up to me, and so like, I'm not all knowing. I tell my students like at least once a week, I'm still learning myself. So if you tell me something I don't know, well, it's 'cause I didn't know, and
Yeah.
let's be honest about it.
Yeah,
Um, it's also like being in circle and learning in circle, like not just like, oh, I'm here and I'm all knowing. Uh,
exactly. And also too, if I may add, like, and it's okay to change your mind. You know what I mean? It's okay to
yeah, I
change
mean,
what
there's some
you.
things that I said in the podcast 2 years ago that probably are not relevant anymore,
Yeah,
but
yeah, because even like the term Nicanplaca, like I'll say this again, I learned that in the Mexica movement, like it was a very particular term in 16th century classical Nahuatl, and at that time we were trying to use it as a pan-indigenous term, blah blah blah. But I had no idea, like I didn't know much about Nahuatl at all. I just like it was just classical Nahuatl, classical Nahuatl, classical Nahuatl. And it's like, I don't know for how many years, it's like, it was hard for me to see, like, yes, like there's classical Nahuatl, but people still speak it. Like it's a vibrant language, it's a living language. And so it wasn't until I started learning more through Kui, and I was like, wait, like, do I want to bring back a term that no one uses, that is very academic focused, very elitist? Because no, people don't know Nicanplaga. Not even Nahuatl speakers are not familiar with the Florentine Codex. A lot of people are like, you know what I mean? It's a very specific term, very specific book that has it. And so I was like, no, like I'm not comfortable with this anymore. Like I lived behind it and I was like super used it. But now in the last few years, I was like, wait, like that's not right. And so I changed the name of my channel. I changed the name of a bunch of stuff, and I thanked Kui. I thanked Kui because I was like, yo, like I was already on this journey, and I was like, I wasn't stopping to think and stopping to educate myself further, right? And after I did, and after Kui showed me a lot of information, I was like, wow, like this makes sense, right? It makes sense. And so now I don't use the term. I don't even believe in the whole substituting Latino or Latinx with anything else. Like that's a whole other new understanding for me. And
that's
so, and
another
also too,
whole
like,
live.
yeah. And I've been making YouTube videos for 13 years. And it's funny because you'll see like what I said in 2008, you know, it's like, it's not what I'll say in 2021, but that's okay. And I've kept those videos up there because I want people to see that. Like, I want people to see growth. I want people to be like, that's who I was. I'm not going to hide from who I was. Like, at that time, at that moment, that's what I knew. That's what I thought. That's what I believed in. And then now, who knows? Maybe things I'm saying now, a few years from now, I'm sure they're going to change. But that's because we're all growing. We're all like transforming. We're all learning. And it's an unending process. So don't be afraid to think differently and not believe what you believed before. Like it's so important to allow yourself that grace, allow yourself that moment and that space to be like, you know what? After thinking about it, I don't think I'm down with this anymore. And it's okay. It's okay. And if we're wrong too, it's okay to be wrong. Like it's so massive the work that we're doing. There's so many things that it's like we're not always going to be right on everything. And if we fuck up and if we make a mistake, let's own up to it. Let's apologize for it and let's move on. Like it's okay. Like it's not the end of the world. Like we're growing people here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And this kind of aligns with the question here. Juan says, any book recommendations to learn about our past so far? I've read Daily Lives of the Aztecs and Broken Spears.
Whew, okay. Daily life for the Aztec is pretty good because it kind of gives you like a daily education, talks about the sciences, marriage, all that stuff. And the other one that they read was which one? Broken Spears?
Broken Spears? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Broken Spears. Speaking of things changing, there are historians now that are saying Broken Spears kind of groups all indigenous people under the defeat banner, which
Mm,
a lot of indigenous people were not defeated.
mm,
It's a very Mexica focused book, which it is. But that's another thing, like, right? Like, there's so many
mhm,
questioning now what was written in the 80s and 90s by new historians, by anthropologists. Another book that I would recommend, híjole, well, one that we should all have is Native American Contributions to the World. It's not like a chapter book. It's like an encyclopedia, and it gives you like a beautiful, huge list of contributions that our ancestors gave, and it's very pan-indigenous. Like it's from Mexica to the Andes to the
Mhm.
Dene to New Mexico. So I always recommend that book because you know sometimes you don't want to read a chapter, so something you just want to read like a page or like a few paragraphs, and it's very powerful. So any page that you open any day in your life, when you open it, you're going to learn something, and it's something that our ancestors created, and it's a beautiful book. So I recommend Native American Contributions to the World. I think it's on Amazon, and I think we might have it as PDF, maybe.
Yeah, so most of those books that we mentioned, right, I think are
Yes,
in Google Drive. What I'll
yes.
do is put it as a link in my story, so folks can just go to it. And
Yes, it's a great resource. And also, not sure if the viewer is interested in Mexico Profundo. It's a book by a Mexican
yes,
anthropologist.
yes, Mexico Profundo. Now, for my Spanish speakers, is it in English?
It originally it's in Spanish and English.
Oh,
Yes, yes. It was written in Spanish by the anthropologo in the I think 80s, and then it was translated in the 90s. So check out Mexico Profundo.
mhm,
It's Reclaiming Civilization. It's an amazing book. It confronts the whole thing about mestizaje. It confronts the whole thing about how in Mexico they glamorize an indigenous past but ignore the indigenous present.
ooh,
It
that's
talks
still that's
about
on right now.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like.
It's a powerful book and it's not that long,
Mhm.
and I really, really recommend it. And I also have to say, this one is not translated though. It's Mexico Racista. It's a Spanish language book, a short, very brief book, but powerful,
Yes,
written by historian Federico Navarrete, which we and I met.
yes,
Hey,
yes, 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 yes.
foto, 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 foto.
At that academic event.
Yes. So I really recommend
That's
that one
another
too.
life.
Yes. We had a parachute in there. Um,
Ay, ay, ay.
Este, yeah, and it's people watching some conferences, people like it's just it's really hard to it's not accessible to the community. So that's what we're saying. Like sometimes you gotta go like crazy challenges to get to
Yeah.
a conference. But no, the Mexico Racista, it's by Federico Navarrete. Honestly, it's the book that I came across it as I was finishing my graduate program, and I was like, what? I couldn't believe that a Mexican historian was actually confronting, first of all, racism in Mexico, like so powerfully, and then debunking mestizaje, and then talking about the racism of colorism, the statistical data on the hiring practices of Mexico and how they are racist. So yeah, that's another book. México Racista, una denuncia by Federico Navarrete. Please, you have
I'm
to check it
gonna,
out.
I'm gonna look
It
for those books and see if they're on PDF.
yes. So those are the ones. And then too, like the person that asked that question, it depends on your interest too. You know, again, like there's
Mhm.
those books are nice in general, but it depends on like my thesis. I wrote on indigenous women of Mexico in the 1600s, so I can give you a big list of books, you know, about indigenous women in the 1600s in Mexico. So it depends what you're interested in. It depends, like, are you into warfare? Are you into like philosophy, government, gender? There's so many things, so there's always good to start with a general book. Like daily life is a very general book, which is awesome, but once you start developing your interests, you know, there's so much information that's, you know, specialized, right, specialized to what you're interested in and learning.
Mhm. Can. So let's see. There's another question. With the recent discoveries of the graves of Indigenous children in Canadian boarding schools, how do
Oof.
you think we can mobilize the U.S. to investigate California emissions?
Ooh.
Um, that's a deep question.
Mhm.
I think that with the recent discoveries and, like I said earlier, the proof of the genocide, it breaks my heart like to the max how this is the kind of proof we need in order to mobilize us
Mhm.
to really being transparent about what occurred, what's
Mhm.
still occurring, you know.
Mhm.
And so I think that mobilizing ourselves as educators,
Mhm.
especially with people being against critical race theory.
Two.
Critical race theory is coming, and it's been there, and it's
Mhm.
been built by us, black, brown, indigenous people of color,
Yep.
and I think that that is going to change. The history, how history is taught, eventually is going to change that, because, at least from my knowledge, these missions at one point were just like beautified. Oh, make them
Mhm.
look beautiful, put these little flowers here, and,
Yep.
graves there too as well. There's, all the torture,
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to add to that, Citlalli.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's so much that to uncover, right? And I think that, for example, we have the cathedral here in Los Angeles, and it was built on sacred grounds, you know. And it's like I participated in protests where we would protest the actual cathedral in front of the church. We're protesting during, Sunday service or whatever. There's a lot of petitions that can happen if you do that at the political level, like the removing of the Columbus statue. That was a lot of work of our relatives, right? That did petitions, that
Yeah.
lobbied. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of things to be done, but I think to like you said, we to start off in education because that's where the denial is the highest, and
Oof.
that's where the
Yep.
impact is the worst, which is fourth
Hmm.
graders in California schools are forced to create little missions, right? They go on California field trips, right, into these missions, and everything is euphemized, everything is pretty, like you were saying. And it's like, if we're going to start somewhere, it should start in schools. These kids are studying about missions, and then now we know this layer about kids are going to be studying how kids were killed, and it's a heavy conversation, but it's like we have to dismantle this myth of California missions and this pretty Catholicism, right? Because at the end of the day, it's to reinforce the view of a religion that is not what it's painted to be. And it's like that pillar of missions and teaching missions and in public schools has to be dismantled. If we can start anywhere, I think it would be there. It's for them to either focus on and get in contact with local native folks about really telling the history of those missions, and then pushing for an investigation on all mission sites, on any settlement that involved the enslavement of indigenous folks. We have to push for an investigation, because it's like, that's it, they take it for, okay, it's past, that's it, they're historical museums now. But it's like, let's, if you dig deep, and people can find bones easily. The technology that people have today, they can find DNA quickly, so it's not going to be that hard. It's not going to be that hard to find, more, unfortunately. Us pushing for it, we need the truth, and the technology exists on how to do it. And there's a lot to do, and especially here in California.
Hmm. Yep. Yes, yes. It's changing. It's changing, and this is gonna come out. There's another question. What are some internal or external conflicts you found yourself coming across in your everyday life while decolonizing your mindset? Woo!
Híjole.
Y'all, y'all coming up with these questions,
There's
yo.
some
Like,
good
this should be
questions.
like a conference.
Ooh.
I am
I hope we're
loving that
recording this
people are
for
asking
the
these
future.
questions.
Amazing questions. I love that. Go, Kui.
Hmm. I was just, um, I, it's a hard one, like, my internal conflicts, it would be like, I don't know, like, it's a lot. It's a lot. Where do I start, I think, understanding and understanding the fact that you have to unlearn everything or coming to the realization that you have to unlearn
Mhm,
everything,
mhm,
right? And I'm gonna have to go like in 10 minutes, but yeah, it's understanding that you have to unlearn everything and everything that you've been taught, everything that you've been told, everything
yeah.
you've been subjected to. Like even for me, like with my like, I can give you one example. My gender, my sexuality. Like um I feel comfortable expressing myself as a male because that's what I've been subjected to, you know. But my identity as two spirit, as a framework for not identifying as a male and as heterosexual or as homosexual or as gay or because those are all still colonial terms, you know. Um, yeah, it's coming to that realization of my gender and my sexuality and how that has influenced my love life and my sense of self, my sense of like
Mhm,
seeing myself, and like coming to the realization that I am a two-spirit person. Like just noticing always being in circle with my family and I'm smack in the middle. Just like of the men and the women. And like even when
mhm,
I go to mascalas and sweat lodges, I'm like smack in the middle.
mm.
So it's like it's always been there. And then my tias and my mom sometimes they call me Misha. Sometimes they correct themselves, sometimes they don't. And it's also like with them, like, seeing me as a female, as like femaleness. Um, I mean that's what I
Yeah.
can say.
I think I can share a recent one. Um, in my family, as you can see, I'm pretty light brown, pretty light brown. So I grew up with a lot of colorism because of my family. If you see, like my great grandfathers and my grandmother, like are beautifully brown, darker brown. And so I grew up with people making fun of La India Maria, like all the time, right? All the time. And as I started learning and decolonizing, I started really challenging that, right? And it's really hard because the last conversation I had was with my own mother, and it's like she's so used to, like, because my mom loves comedy and she's a really funny lady, but it's like when she gets to these characters and she starts making fun of it, like, I've been doing this for 24 years. I've been telling her for 24 years. But this last time it really something hit, right? Something hit me, and I talked with her. I said, Mom, like, yo sé que para usted es chistoso. Like, I understand, like, you grew up with these movies, you memorize the jokes, like, I get it, pero le dije, se está burlando de nuestra gente, mom. And my mom, my dad passed away, my mom remarried, right? My mom remarried a man from Veracruz who's, like, I would say almost full blood, indigenous. And my sister, like, she's beautifully brown. She came out very, with a lot of the features that he has. And I told my mom, like, anytime you're making fun of La India Maria, look how, like, you may not think, but it's impacting my sister. And my sister has never shared that with my mom, but it's like, no, like these jokes, these light comedy that we consider light is psychologically damaging. We may not think about it that way. It's the way it's socialized and normalized in TV, but those conversations are the hardest because I'm coming from a place of love. I want to be gentle with my mother, but I also want to be gentle about my sisters. I want to be gentle with myself. You know what I mean? And it's like, and they're hard conversations to have. They're really hard to have. But if I don't say something, if I don't try to like share this reality with her, it's going to keep damaging other kids, right? And other families that are going to laugh uncomfortably, knowing that they're themselves are darker skinned. And it's like we're continuing this process of colorism. And it's like, and that's the hardest. I think the hardest challenges of decolonization is when they're in your family, when they're with the people that you love the most. People that I don't really care for, people that I'm, whatever, I confront, protest, I don't know, it's like, it's cool. But when it gets to your own home, your own household, that's when it's heavier. And I think that's when we have to be the most cautious with our own health, with our own mental health, because you can disrupt something in you. You can trigger something in you that's not going to be healthy for you or that person that you're having the conversation. So I would say when I do these conversations, now that I'm older, I really try to come with a conversation of love. Say, Mom, I know you mean well. I know, like, you know what I mean? You kind of want to say, you're a good person. I understand that. Like, this is not a judgment on who you are as a person, but it's on what you think as a person, and how have these things shaped us. And I even had that conversation with my late grandmother, que descanse en el universo, but she would always say mejorar la raza, and she never really said it to me directly, but she would use it a lot in her everyday, speak with people. And one day I just asked her, like, with all love and respect, with all gentleness, and I asked her, instead of asking her, why do you say that, grandma? Like, of course not like that. But I asked, oh, Abuelita, like, why did, where did you start hearing that first? Like, when were you told that? Do you remember when that was? And so, in asking her where she started learning that phrase, it really started a nice conversation about who said it, why, the racism that she experienced. So, there's a lot of ways I think that we can diminish the pain in these conversations, but it does take, you have to be ready and take your time. And like I said, be gentle. So those are the ones that I would share. That's the hardest ones, right? The day-to-day ones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just be gentle with, yeah, especially yourself. Because if you are on a journey, you're the only one in your family. Again, I'm stressing that because that's the case with most of the people I've encountered. Is sometimes it turns into something negative, and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just can't get out of that. Like for example, just being just for me, just being just mad and just mad at the white man. And when I say white man, I mean the systemic, the the
Mm-hmm.
the the, the, the system that oppresses us. And just but also like turning that around. Being able to turn that around. But yeah, thank you everyone. Tlaskamati Miak, thank you very much for everyone that was tuning in. We appreciate you being here. I definitely appreciated your questions. And we are all here for each other, but also understanding that we also have to take care of ourselves. Um, and yeah, I also attempt to provide resources for other folks in our stories. But yeah, Citlalli does coaching services for your decolonizing journey. Citlalli, where can people contact you?
Here on Instagram is probably the easiest way to contact me. I also have a Facebook page, um, a YouTube page, and I'm on TikTok. But as far as like for my coaching services, this is the best way. Just DM me and let me know what you're interested in. and then we can have a conversation about
Uh-huh.
that. And if I could just remind people real quick, that tomorrow I have my
Oh yeah.
free class.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
my free monthly Eat to Colonize class, and tomorrow it's class 14. I'm gonna have a lecture guest, Arnold from New Almauta, the Instagram page on here. So if you're interested in learning about Inca philosophy, it's going to be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on my YouTube channel, Mexican Excellence. Absolutely free. Just tune in and participate in the classroom.
Again, Apiali, everyone. Pues ya nos vamos. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much for being here. Yeah,
Thank
Mexican
you.
Excellence on Instagram, on YouTube. There will be a class tomorrow. Um, and yeah, um, Castamati, hermana, for being here, for taking some time out of your day, for being a chingona, a mother, an hermana, amiga, a psicóloga, everything to us.
Clase
Uh,
Kamati to you, Kui. Clase Kamati.
you have a good night. Nos
You
vemos.
too.
Maitase.